What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. As you can see by the title of this video, I'm going to share with you the exact process I use to get dates on autopilot. And as many of you may know, you know that I talk about travel and dating, but I want to let you know this process will work anywhere in the world. In fact, this is the exact same process I used when I was living in San Diego, California, and I did extremely well dating in San Diego, California with this exact process. So no matter where you are in the world, this will work for you. So with that said, let's actually hop into my computer and we will go through the exact process there. See you soon. All right, gentlemen, welcome to my computer screen. Isn't it beautiful? So here is the simple process I use to go on over 100 first dates in the past 12 months and a lot more than that over the past 5 to 10 years. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight on into it. So first and foremost, you have to generate leads. So leads is going to be numbers. So you are going to have to meet women in some way, whether that's online dating, day game, night game, social circle, bars, clubs, going to social events. You got to go to places or go online. Instagram is another place in order to meet women. And how you do that is kind of up to you. There's so many different strategies, but I'm going to share with you what I do on dating apps, for example. So ultimately, you are trying to get numbers so that you can set dates. And so if you're in bars, clubs, social events, you're going for the Instagram, the WhatsApp, or the phone number. Now, if it's a dating app, this is what I personally do. I send this GIF right here that says, "Hey there," with this little crazy looking kid. But with that in mind, I have a line in my bios that encourage them to message me first because obviously I want to test compliance and I also want to screen for the most high interest women because if they take the time to message me first, that means they probably are very, very interested. Now, if they don't message me first, I send this GIF. And part of the reasons I send the GIF is because it invokes curiosity, because they don't get to see a little preview of what the GIF is until they open the message. And most people cannot stand that, so they'll at least get that message opened. Then they'll usually say something like, haha, hi, or haha, how are you, or haha, or something like that. If you use this exact strategy, you will learn that there are pretty much only a few ways that this can go because it's just playing on human psychology. And us humans aren't that different. And then at that point, I'll say, I'm good just coming up with ideas for our first date. And you. And then they'll say something, oh, really? What'd you have in mind? Oh, really? Like what? And then occasionally they may say something like, oh, it's a little early for that, don't you think? And at that point, I will probably, most likely, ghost them because I am not into dealing with objections, which is something that we will talk about later. And frankly, the reason for that is because I have a lot of different options and I have a lot of leads. So the only reason I would care to overcome objections is if I was desperate, to be honest, and I'm not. So I don't really even try and overcome objections, but you are welcome to try that if you want to. And then once they respond with, oh, really, like what? Or what did you have in mind? I would say, I was thinking we could do one of these options that I have listed here. And these are pretty much the only options that I do for first dates because they are relatively low investment. I'm not going hiking with anybody. I'm not taking anyone out for dinner. And I'm certainly not going to a movie or doing anything where I am trapped with someone that I possibly do not like or enjoy for hours of my time. So these things are all great options. And I personally prefer the beach because then you get to see them in a bathing suit and get to scope out the body a little bit. And if you have a decent body yourself, you get to show that off as well. And then I'll say, how does that sound? Because it is like a trial close. You know about sales, you're not going for like the hard sell at that point. You're just saying, how's that sound? You're dipping your toe in the water to see what the response is. Usually it is something like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds fun. Also, I should mention that for the woman, these are low investment things as well. So they have the same kind of thoughts like, oh, what if I hate this guy? I don't want to go to dinner for 2 hours, get drinks, entrees, appetizers, possibly dessert. The one caveat to that is women who are looking for free meals or possibly time wasters. They might counter with that, and I would stick to my guns here, honestly, and I would not entertain those ideas. And we'll talk about that more here in a moment. And then if she says, yeah, that sounds good, that sounds fun, or any sort of agreement, then I say, okay, give me your WhatsApp so we can make a plan. Or I say, okay, here is my WhatsApp, send me a message so we can make a plan. You'll want to test with both of those if you are going to follow this process. And as outlined by this disclaimer, this is a rough outline because every conversation is going to be different. Women might ask you different questions, and you need to acknowledge those questions and you need to respond to those questions. But this is a rough outline of the things that you need to do. Now, if they don't respond to my GIF, I do not message them a second time. And oftentimes they'll get around to messaging you eventually. But I noticed that, like, after 2 or 3 days, guys especially are like, oh, they didn't respond to my message. I have to send another message. No, don't do that. And I don't do that. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier that if you have enough leads in the pipeline, you really aren't too worried about sending second and third messages to people who haven't even responded to you. And as I mentioned earlier as well, if they give me objections, I rarely try and overcome them. So if they say something like, I don't know you well enough yet, I want to talk longer on here, I want to go to dinner and drinks and all this stuff, I'm just going to ghost them. Hard pass for me. It's not worth the effort. Now, in real life, if you met these people from social circle or clubs or a social event, what you're going to do is you're going to get their number at that event, obviously, and then you would say something like, hey, it's X from Y. So that would be your name from however you met her. And I usually say, hey, it's that handsome devil you met at the yacht party last night. But I want to caution you, you are not me, so you probably don't want to copy the things I say exactly. Because I will tell you, in person, I am a very confident person. And so, when they meet you, your messages need to align with who you are. So, if they met me last night at the yacht party, well, I give off a very confident and somewhat cocky aura, and so they will expect that from me. If you're some dorky shy guy that says, hey, it's that handsome devil you met last night, they're going to be like, who is this guy? That is not who I remember. So make sure you are congruent with your behavior, because if you are not, that's how you get compliance tests, because you are not acting congruent. And then at that point, they'll usually say something like, oh, hey, oh, hi, how are you? Hi, it was nice to meet you. And at that point, I'll say, hey, how was getting coffee with your mom yesterday? Or whatever it was that they said they were doing before I left, or before we parted ways, shall I say. However, if they say, oh, hi, how are you? Then I go to the trusted line from above. I'm good just coming up with ideas for our date. Then you're going to follow the same messaging process as above, but obviously you don't need to ask for her number. Now it's all about getting those logistics settled. So the two most important things are you're going to need to know what area she lives in and when she is available. You want to know what area she lives in because depending on where she lives, it might be a far trek for her to get from where she is to wherever you are planning the date. Also, some women, I would say most women, enjoy being enjoy the thought of you at least acting like you are being considerate. So that's part of the reason I do it. And I talk about this more in a second. But my dates are almost always in the same handful of places. But I do make sure to ask what part of the city she is in so that there is at least the appearance of me putting stock into what part of the city she is coming from. Now, when it comes to when she is free, some guys like saying I'm free Tuesday or Thursday, which works for you, or they even like saying I'm free Tuesday or Thursday at 7 p.m., which time works for you. And personally, I don't like that. I just like asking when they're free because then she has to give you a hard day and likely a time as well. And then I just choose the soonest possible day and time, assuming that I am free for that day and time. Because if it ends up getting delayed, then your chances just go down drastically. And as I mentioned previously, the date location is almost 100% the same handful of places that I always go. And that is because of logistics in case I want to pull them back to where I live to, seal the deal, my boys. So, usually it is a place within 5 to 10 minutes or so of where I live by foot. And every place I live is usually in like the trendy part of town. And then, as I mentioned before, sometimes they'll try and get you to change the location. And I should change this to say never do because I'm sure I've probably done it once, but I rarely will do that. But you can do whatever you want. Now, additionally, if you're scared of what the bartender or hostess or whoever thinks of you going to the same place for dates, you need to just get on over that. I've been to the same place. Like, for instance, in the United States, I used to go to Margarita Factory and get margaritas. And I went there for 3 dates on the same day with 3 different women. And the same people were working, and guess what? I did not care. So if that's something you're worried about, just go on and get over it. Fun fact, I also went on a date from with one of the hostesses from Margarita Factory because she was making a comment about my dates, and I was like, "What, you jealous or something? If you are, we can grab a drink sometime." And she was like, "Oh, ha ha ha, I would like that." But that is a rare scenario. Actually, it happened at least 2 other times in the different places, but for the amount of dates I've been on, it is not like super common. So, with all that in mind, you now have everything set up, but you need to ensure that the woman shows up on the date. So, part of the reason I chose the soonest possible date is to prevent flaking because the longer the date is from whenever you schedule it, the less likely she will still be excited to go on that date. And B, to minimize communication before the date because I have no interest in maintaining a conversation for multiple days. I will have simple, light conversations, but if you start sending more than a sentence or two, you're likely to only mess it up because that is what women are looking for. They are looking for what's wrong with you, and they're looking for you to make mistakes in order for them to justify not going out with you. Now, you'll likely want to confirm the date. Usually, these women message me first to confirm the date. But when they don't, I'll just say something simple like, "I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight." If they don't respond, I will not show up. If they are extremely late, I am going to leave because I am not a sucker. And I am showing them that I have standards. And I will leave often without saying anything unless they communicate with me clearly that they're going to be extremely late. In my opinion, that's more than about 15 or 20 minutes or so. And I will say that sometimes they do still show up, and I just tell them, "Oh, hey, look, I left because you were extremely late. So if you want to come on over and we can do something, then that's fine. But otherwise, it's a no-go." And I don't obviously say that last part, but I give them the option of coming over or meeting me out front, because usually we can just hop on down to the beach or something. And it also shows that you have value and standards, and that you're not going to be like every other guy who just lets them get away with anything and everything. So I think that pretty much covers everything leading up to the first date. Now, what you do on the first date and how you handle those first dates and pulling back to your place or things like that, not going to cover in this video. But if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those down below. Like, comment, subscribe to help me with the algorithm, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this, and as always, even though you can't see me, peace, much love, my boys.